like to call to order the Town Commission regular meeting of September 27th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Mayor Tompeck,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Campo,
Here.
Commissioner Fender,
Here.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Here.
Okay, we have a couple of proclamations. First one's for National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Would the town clerk please read the proclamation into the record?
Whereas September is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, which directs the community's attention to this public health epidemic destroying lives, whole families, and sometimes entire communities. Whereas suicide rates on the Treasure Coast and in Okeechobee have increased significantly in the first half of 2022, according to our medical examiner's office, with 11 suicide deaths in Martin County in Q1 of 2022. Whereas in 2022, the age-adjusted rate per 100,000 population of suicide deaths in Martin County was 11.2 compared to Florida at 13.1. Whereas in Martin County, there are 64 suicide deaths in 2022, a 23.90% year-over-year increase from 2021. Whereas suicide is the only type of death that is 100% preventable, and by offering public education, data, support, and services, we as a community have taken a step towards preventing another suicide by our residents, those resilient people with the capability to recover, rebound, and heal. Whereas we proclaim September as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in Sewalls Point, Florida. Now therefore, I, John Tompeck, Mayor of the Town of Sewalls Point, do hereby proclaim September 2022 as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in the Town of Sewalls Point.
Thank you very much. I hope I don't butcher this pronunciation too badly. Is Phil Grosdidier here?
Yes.
Close enough?
Close enough.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Phil Grosdidier, and I'm a board member of New Horizons of the Treasure Coast in Okeechobee. For 64 years, New Horizons has provided mental health and addiction recovery services to local residents in need of help. Today, those services include inpatient and outpatient care to 15,000 adults and children beginning at age 4 from across 4 counties, regardless of their ability to pay. The agency also serves 23,000 students grades K through 12 by providing drug and alcohol prevention programs and anti-bullying curriculum in the schools. Suicide is the second leading cause of death in the United States for young people aged 10 to 34, and it's one of the leading causes of death for all adults, yet it's 100% preventable. Your proclamation sends a resounding message to the community. People really care. Help is available. We are resilient and healing is possible. New Horizons Mobile Response Team operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have mental health professionals who can talk to those in need, and we are the only agency in the region that delivers mental health services directly to the person in need of help. No cost, no hassle. Just call 772-468-3909 or 211. We appreciate your time today. Please check out the New Horizons website for upcoming events so you guys can show more support. Thank you very much.
Okay, the second item is 2/11 Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. Would the town clerk read the proclamation into the record?
Whereas it is nationally recognized that suicide fatalities have been on the increase, and the local medical examiner has stated 33% increase for this region. Whereas there is a call for public health response to increase suicide intervention and prevention efforts with increased community-level efforts and strategies. 211 is that central access point providing individuals and families with guidance and crisis support via telephone or text anytime, day or night. 211's highly trained and caring staff works 24 hours a day, saving lives, de-escalating and stabilizing people in mental health or suicide crisis, and guiding people struggling with substance use disorder to connect with the help that they need. Now therefore, I, John Tompeck, Mayor of the Town of Sewalls Point, do hereby extend recognition to 211 of the Treasure Coast for being the front line of suicide prevention and urge all citizens to be aware of the 211 number to access information from over 1,600 agency providers.
Thank you very much, and I understand that nobody's here. Chad Adcock is not here.
Mr. Chad?
Okay, so we'll just go ahead and send that to him. Thank you very much. Next item is public comment. We do have one public comment from John Kemmler. It's on the Pineapple 5K.
Thank you for your time. Good evening. My name is John Kemmler. I'm with the Treasure Coast Running Club. For most of my career running in South Florida, we ran the Pineapple, and everybody I know thinks of the Pineapple, they think of the race we have right outside here. We don't think of pineapples as something you eat. For 3 years since COVID, the Pineapple has not been in Sewalls Point, and frankly, we would like to come home. It's much better here. We have a better turnout, we have a better response, we have more people, we have a better event, and our better event lets us help more people, more organizations that we can do, contribute to charitably. We would like you to consider letting us come back and run in Sewalls Point on Memorial Day this year.
Thank you. Okay, are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? Commissioner Fender?
Just in light of the fact that Mr. Kemmler spoke on Pineapple 5K, I think I'd like to pull that item out of the consent agenda and ask him have a little more discussion about it after the consent.
Okay, so that's 6F. We'll pull. Any other changes?
Yeah, I'll pull 6G and 6H, just for a quick comment.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Kurzman? Yes. Commissioner Campo? Aye. Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck?
Yes. So that brings us back to 6F, the Pineapple 5K run race application.
Great. Could I ask Mr. Kemmler to come back up for 1 second? So appreciate that. I think the Pineapple 5K was on the consent agenda, so I assumed it was going to move through pretty readily. I get the sense from my fellow commissioners that we're in support of the fitness initiative for our community, but I understand the Pineapple 5K is a ways out. What we have is an imminent race coming up at Halloween, which is right around the corner. Are we set for that?
We do. The Halloween half is a race put on by us, conjunction with Stuart and with you folks in Sewalls Point. I was not prepared this evening because it's my partner who has been working on most of the statistics of the logistics with Chief, but I believe we're pretty well set on the Halloween half. October 30th, it's a Sunday morning. Miles 4 through 9 run through your neighborhoods, and then we're out of here and back into Stewart and Memorial Park.
So we've done that race in this community
We
many
have done that
many
race in this
times.
community, I don't know how many years, more than 5.
Okay, all right. And am I seeing on the screen, this is the permit for the Pineapple or for the Halloween? Maybe I'll just ask the town manager, are you aware of the Halloween
I haven't
half?
seen it, but it could have been through the system before
Well,
I came on board.
It says requested for race May 29, 2023, so that would be a Memorial Day's race, that would be the Pineapple.
Okay.
Right.
My understanding is in the past, since the Halloween half didn't start and stop in Sewalls Point, it just kind of passed through, there was not an official application for this,
Okay.
although I
believe
assume
that's
they're
correct.
happy to submit it. Maybe Brenda has already submitted it?
I believe that the president, who is in Sacramento right now, has submitted through the city of Stewart, because we do start and stop in Memorial Park.
I think I was just aware that Chief Tina had an issue, but Chief's not here, so.
I
Yeah,
understand.
she'll be here later.
Oh, then I'm leaving. No.
All right. I just want to make sure that since it's so close that
Her issue last year was not the race itself. It was that some of our markings were not what she understood them to be. And it involved some cones on Sewalls Point Road in like a one-block area was her only complaint that I had heard, and I was directly involved in putting the race on last
we're going to fix
October.
that this year, right?
I'm sorry?
We're going to fix that this year.
So, of course.
Okay, all right.
And obviously, we'll speak to the chief and make sure that if she has any other concerns, we'll put those fires out before they start.
Okay, well, I just want to,
She should be here shortly, but it might be like a half an hour, so I don't know if you can wait or not.
That's right.
I think the only reason I bring it up is just so that we don't get to the 13th hour and there's an issue.
Right.
I get the sense that there's no real concerns about this. If there are, now would be the time to raise them. Otherwise, I think we should.
The chief's usually pretty good. If there's something that's a big problem, she's going to bring it to my attention or somebody's attention, so.
That's very true for us as well. If there's something that she has a concern with, she has, has all our phone numbers to make sure that we get it right before race day.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner?
I see Kai has a button on.
I was just going to do that, so I'll second it.
Please call roll.
Commissioner Campo? Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Okay, we have 6G and H. Mr. Campo?
Yeah, as someone with the background in insurance, I just wanted you all to know, since I'm not the runner, and I appreciate you helping with that, I've got the expertise in the insurance. I think we're getting a lot of bang for the buck. I wanted to point out to the sergeant and the chief that the workers' comp is exemplary as far as our safety record. There's something in the workers' comp industry, it's called an experience modification, which is an experience of how safe your workplace is. Our experience modification is 0.79, which is 21% safer, let's say, than the standard. So I know that was a goal of the town managers for us to have a focus on safety of our employees, because we're concerned about you and want you to have good work experience. So congratulations on that experience modification. The one thing that I might ask the town manager moving forward, and that is to review the number of vehicles that we're insuring. I think there's 11 on there, and I know sometimes we use cars as, for lack of a better word, decoy cars. But we're being charged for each vehicle on the liability side, so if we don't need to have tags on every one of the vehicles, we would be saving money on the premium. So with that, I will move that we approve consent items 6G and H.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Campo?
Aye.
One other quick item on that, Mr. Daniels, if we can, in the future, when we write up that there's an increase, could you also put in what the former price was?
Okay.
So we can.
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure I could have gone back and looked in the budget and figured it out.
Right, but make it as easy as I can for you, so.
I need it simple. Okay, that brings us to public hearings on ordinance, and we have two on the second reading. The first one is ordinance 443 on the rezoning of the heritage lot. Will the town attorney please read the ordinance title into the record?
Yes, thank you. Ordinance number 443 is an ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point, Florida, changing the zoning classification of property located at 7 Heritage Way, Sewalls Point, Florida, from PS1, Public Services, to R1, Residential, finding conformity with the comprehensive plan, approving amendment to the zoning map, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you. I don't have any public comments. Is there any public comments? Seeing none,
I'll move approval.
Second.
is there any further discussion from the town commission?
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, I know this had come up before, but going to page 120, number 7,
127?
page 120, I should say, but also page 7 of the ordinance. We talked about this several times, the additions that the BZA had presented, or the changes the BZA had presented.
Is this 7A?
It's page 120, and it's, I said 7 because it also says 7 on the page, but it's page, I'm on the wrong ordinance, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh my God.
You just step ahead.
It's been a long week, yes. Okay, so I'm totally off, and I
No
don't have
problem.
anything to say.
There's no other questions or comments, please call the roll.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Campo?
Aye.
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Okay, the next item is ordinance number 444, amending Chapter 62, Marine Activities, Facilities, and Structures. Would the town attorney please read the ordinance title into the record?
Yes, ordinance number 444 is an ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point, Florida, amending Chapter 62, Marine Activities, Facilities, and Structures, Article 3, Marine Structures, Division 2, Marine Structure Regulations, Subdivision 1 in general, Section 62-132, Definitions, Subdivision 2, Permit, Section 62-151, Permit Requirements, Non-conforming use, Subdivision 3, Technical Requirements and Standards, Section 62-175, Roofs, and Section 62-176, Variances, to authorize the Board of Zoning Adjustment to consider alternative compliance applications for boat lift covers, and for the purposes of severability, the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, codification, and an effective date.
Thank you very much. We do have one public comment. H.B. Barrett, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. H.B. Barrett, 23 East High Point Road. In the agenda, look at ordinance number 444 and click on number 3, PDF 5-24-22 minutes, and scroll down to page 7. You're going to look for item 3, which has a sentence beginning as an additional condition. In the first sentence, the ordinance currently talks about taking the cover off when a hurricane warning is issued. I think we can all agree that changing the wording to tropical storm /hurricane warning is more appropriate, as a boat lift cover is like a parachute being held to a frame with bungee cords, which will not hold even in a minimal tropical storm. The last sentence of item 3, the Board of Zoning Adjustment had the same discussions that you have been having concerning how severe the penalty should be for failure to remove the cover. By a unanimous 5-0 vote, our wording was much stronger, as we replaced what is currently may in that sentence with will permanently lose. The BZA's justification for this 5-0 position is based on 2 points. This is a brand new portion of the ordinance, and you'll be granting the applicant an opportunity that they have never had before, so the town is in a position to be very restrictive on how the ordinance is applied. The second point is the BZA members agreed that we will specifically address the requirement to remove the cover with the applicant before approval is even granted, and tell them that they need to have 3 plans. 1, they will remove it. 2, a neighbor will remove it. And 3, if neither can do it, the applicant will have a paid contractor on call to remove the cover. If you leave the wording weak as it is before you today using may, there will be unintended consequences. 1, there will be less compliance, as people will look at the ordinance and think, it just says may, so the worst thing that will happen is I'll receive a slap on the wrist. The second consequence is that the lower compliance will result in more infractions being brought before the BCA. And now, if our earlier 5-0 vote is any indication, they'll be turned down. And what happens next is that each of you commissioners will be receiving phone calls asking if the town commission overruled the BZA ruling. Don't you all already receive enough phone calls from members of this community? Do you really want to add another reason for people to call you? At every town commission meeting, you have more important matters to discuss than dealing with boat covers. In order to prevent this from coming before you time and time again by owners of those covers, replace may with will or shall to give the ordinance some teeth. leave it weak, and we will all be suffering from the unintended consequences.
Thank you. Commissioner Mayfield?
You could go back and replay what I said. Yeah, I support that change to shall or will.
You mean to change from may to shall?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think at one point it was will, but
You know,
shall is
we
fine.
we talked about this at length a couple of meetings ago. I personally don't have an objection to making it shall, and I don't know what the rest of the, so we're talking about two changes. One would be from issuing a hurricane warning to issuing a tropical storm / hurricane warning, and to change it back to shall. Is that, any other discussion on that, or?
Just a question, I got an email. Is there a limit to the number of boat lift covers per property?
Good question.
Commissioner Fender?
Is there a limit to the number of boats per property?
That'd be the operative question. Commissioner Mayfield?
I think there's a limit of 3 lifts per property, per dock. Is that correct? Building, yes. So in theory, but I would believe you'd have to apply for a permit each time. So does that mean they would go through the alternative compliance thing 3 times, and then the BZA would have to decide?
So then it would be assumed that each home could have 3 boat lift covers. Okay.
Commissioner Fender?
So I did speak with HB earlier in the week, and in fact, I think I sent an email in on the tropical storm change. I don't see it reflected here, but that's easily rectified. I'm also fine with the change, not passionate about it either way, but I noticed that it has a comma after it, and it says, let's pretend we change it to shall, comma, then it says, subject to approval of the Board of Zoning adjustment. So to me, it's still suitably soft, right? It's, well, you want to scratch that, so it's not just a change of one word, it's the change of the sentence entirely.
Is that a good point?
Okay, so what would the sentence read? Just to make sure I understand.
So my understanding, it'll read, failure to remove the boat lift cover canopy within such period shall result in the loss of authorization for alternative compliance.
So we're scratching the,
Subject to
Striking
the
out the
approval.
words may, subject to approval by the Board of Zoning Adjustment. And up above, if I could, it's governmental agency issuing a tropical storm warning or a hurricane warning.
that's fine, I
There has
suppose
to
from
be a
slash,
slash,
yeah,
but
whatever you want.
I think maybe or is better because then.
You're the man.
Add 2 more words, yeah. All right.
Okay, with those changes, no additional discussion, can I get a motion?
Are those, can I ask the council, are those significant enough that we need to do a first reading again?
No, I think this is fine. This is certainly within the confines of the title and the ordinance. And I'll only mention this because we're in the middle of this hurricane watch. I think we all know there's a watch, there's a warning. So we're talking tropical storm warning and a hurricane warning, not a watch for either one.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I just have a discussion. Clarify tropical storm warning versus watch again. So a warning is, it may be,
I think the watch is the lesser. So the
No.
watch is you're kind of watching out.
I think it's just the opposite.
It's the opposite, yeah.
No?
Isn't it?
Warning is worse.
Well, anyway, it's defined by National Hurricane Service or whatever it is.
Right.
We're not making up a definition for that, whatever they
Right.
define it as.
I think warning is sufficient,
I believe
because there's a timeline, right? There's-
I just, I don't know how many of those occur in a typical year, so that's why.
I'm not a meteorologist or even the police
they
chief,
wanted
but I believe, because I just was thinking about it today, and the town manager clarified, a warning means you should expect tropical force winds within 24 to 36 hours. I thought it was just 24, but he said it was 24 to 36. So you should expect those winds. So a warning means it's coming, and the watch is like it could come.
Okay.
And the watch is 48 hours on the far end. So,
Okay, I think we have a motion and a second, so please call the roll.
Mayor Tom Peck,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Campo,
Aye.
Commissioner Fender,
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes.
All right, that was been a long hike on that particular.
That's why I voted aye.
That brings us to resolutions. First one is number 946, zoning in progress. Would the town clerk please read the resolution title into the record?
A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point, Florida, declaring zoning in progress to allow for the amendment of land development regulations to comply with recent updates to the town's comprehensive land use plan, providing that for a period of 120 days, while zoning is in progress, is in effect, the town shall not accept or process applications for development orders or permits, amendments to site plans or other zoning applications, providing for the processing of applications and the approval of development orders or permits which are already in process, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dennis, do you want to start?
Yes, sir, Mayor. The reason why this is here in front of you, normally jurisdictions that I've worked with, we have taken the comp plan amendments and then follow up doing the LDRs right away. When I heard that the comp plan amendments were done prior to my arrival here, my assumption, which wrongfully so, was that we did the LDRs. And the reason the land development regulations should match what you have decided to do in your comp plan. And that really gives you the ordinance that, you know, governs what you can and cannot do. So the comp plan is like the plan of what we want. The ordinances achieve that by those regulations. So, and my understanding now from talking to our town attorney and talking to Bonnie, I guess originally when we looked at doing the comp plan and the LDRs, they were together in the RFP, but because of the cost concerns, it was split up between the commission at that time. Now, I wasn't here. This is kind of what my research today has shown us. So what you have for you tonight is just looking at the LDRs and that piece of it. And I did locate it back when Dan was the interim, Dan Hudson, correspondence that came from Bonnie with a quote to do the LDRs, and that was under $10,000. So I wanted to research and make sure that it wasn't already approved by Dan, and I just, you know, we didn't have the handoff, but I found out that that has not been signed off on as yet, but obviously it's necessary to do. That takes us to the zoning in progress. You want to make sure that you don't do something that's contrary to your comprehensive plan. So generally you'll do, other communities have done this, they'll do a zoning in progress. So it kind of holds up any action. They can still make an application, but the actual decision-making process isn't done until that zoning in progress is done. And from talking to the town attorney, the maximum amount of time is usually 180 days. We are looking at roughly 90 days. The problem that we have is the holidays towards the end of December. My, you know, knowledge and experience has been usually those last 2 weeks in December, you get a lot accomplished. So that's why I asked maybe about doing 120 days with our town attorney, with the hope we'd still get it done sooner than later, because I don't want to hold up any progress that might be there. Fast forward a little bit, today I actually had a conversation with the gentleman that purchased the parcel that is of concern, the 8-acre parcel that sits off of North Sewalls Point Road, and his intention is to subdivide it into 2 parcels. both of them going from east to west, and both of them being just under 4 acres. And he's a builder. He's used to zoning in progress from his experience in Jupiter Island, because apparently they've just gone through this same situation in Jupiter Island. Obviously, he'd like not to, he'd like to get in and do something, but he understands the process, and he understands what we're doing. Again, we don't have an application, we don't have any information other than the sketch that I think each of you have a copy, and a copy of the email that he had sent me explaining what his project is. And so with that in mind, that's kind of how we got to where we are tonight, and kind of talking about the zoning in progress. And if you have any questions of myself or of staff, we're more than happy to answer.
Commissioner Campo.
Yeah, so there's three parts of this, and I'd like to break them down. There's the LDR aspect, which I want to set aside. There's the 8-acre parcel formerly known as Racy Ridge, was it?
I believe so, yeah.
And just something that caught me off guard, the third thing was how this arose at a budget meeting. I missed a meeting that I thought was a slam dunk 15-minute meeting, and to see that there were 2 issues that had never been brought up again that were inserted into the budget meeting was surprising. So I had called Bob and spoke to him, because I'm very concerned. The biggest piece of the 3 pieces, the LDR, the way that this came up, and the 8-acre parcel, the part that concerns me the most is that we've got a new neighbor that hopefully will develop the 8-acre parcel so that we can free up some taxable values and we can amortize more of our expenses. We can collect building fees and keep Jack busy. But I thought it was a heck of a way to welcome someone into the neighborhood to put together basically a freeze up of his private property rights. So I was concerned that a neighbor came to a meeting at a budget meeting, which was not meant to conduct normal business, but a neighbor came and inserted a concern about the new owner. So when the new owner bought the property, our first inkling is to slam on the brakes with any possible development. And I'm concerned about that. The city of Stewart is going through discussions of a moratorium. And what I would like to do is, and I'm glad that Bob did reach out, but I'd like to table this for 2 weeks so that we have a little bit more input from the party that's going to be impacted from this the most. This is a parcel of land that has been proposed several different ways, and we've run them away multiple times before with demands, and I don't want to start off on the wrong foot with this individual. I'm glad the town manager reached out, but if you follow Martin County law and Martin County politics, there was a similar case called Lake Point where the county commission jumped in and interrupted the business of a development out west, and it resulted in a $25 million lawsuit that the county was so caught off guard of, they had to actually take out a loan to pay the lawsuit. It also followed up with a humongous public records lawsuit, which two county commissioners were actually indicted. This is hot potato stuff. When you talk about moratorium, when you talk about infringing on someone's private property rights, you don't want to bring this up at a public meeting that's intended for the budget and have it, not adequately screened by the person that's going to be affected by it most. If you paid $7 million for a boat or a vehicle and someone came and said, hey, you can't use that, or you can't use that for 120 days, you wouldn't like that. Why should this be any different? What I think we should do, and I think it's just the path that we've already begun, is give Bob a couple of weeks to work through with this contractor, to make sure that we're all on the same page, to make sure that Glenn's all on the same page, because when you start infringing upon someone's use of their own private property, it can result in a lot of damage, and I don't want to be a part of that. So my suggestion is not to kill this, but to put it away for 2 weeks while Glenn and Bob have an opportunity to work with the new owner. Let's face it, that's who's going to be affected by this the most. So I had sent an email to Glenn and Bob about that, and I just want to make sure that, I'm adequately noticed on, my concerns.
Commissioner Mayfield?
I think that was from before, but did you have yours? I'll wait till he does.
Commissioner Fender?
So you hit a lot of hot button issues on that, and I'm telling you, I wasn't invested in this as much until you just talked. But, you've said a couple things that I'm not sure I'm completely agree with. This discussion that we're having here has been going on for as long as the comp plan's been under development. So you're bringing up a concept of slow growth versus no growth versus fast growth, and aligning it to the Lake Point issue. We're not stopping anybody from doing anything here. We're saying, the way I understand it, and you can correct me, is that we're just saying, hey, let's have 120 days so somebody's not pushing something in under the wire that our comp plan, which we spent a great deal of time now developing and working on, takes hold and is impacted. I hear what you're saying. The way I perhaps wrongly interpret your statement is that we've got a guy that wants to develop this land, and he wants to develop it according to old regulations that don't apply to our comp plan. I would think that, of all things, is impacting the broader constituency rather than just that one particular developer. Absolutely, want the developer to develop. I want him to feel at home. I don't feel like our comp plan is onerous against him. But if it is, I'm fine giving him a couple weeks to flush out what it is about the comp plan that is impacting him so negatively. I would assume that he would be a welcome member of our community and want to adhere to the stack of ordinances that we have that keep our town pristine.
That's all I'm asking for,
Yeah.
for 2 weeks, for them to take a look at it, because an ounce of prevention
Yeah.
is worth a pound of cure.
I don't
So
know.
I would then.
It's fine to flush it out,
I'd
but I'm
make-
saying, I
I'd
think
make-
the reason of this ordinance is to wait 120 days to make sure that whatever plans he does, he has the time to make sure they adhere to our ordinance base.
Right.
I mean, am I misinterpreting this now?
Well, I think he deserves input, and I think he would respect and appreciate that input beforehand, rather than the 120-day
But this comp plan
lockup.
has been around long before he
Well,
made it,
and
he
I-
goes on the property, right?
I received an email from a neighbor, and I heard the neighbor speak at the budget meeting. That's when I saw this jump on the agenda. So that's what
Yeah,
I am.
This neighbor has been raising this issue
for the
with the
for-
previous owner who was planning to do something nefarious on that property,
Well,
right?
that's rumor
I-
of that. So anyway, I think we're on the same page. If we could give it 2 weeks and have an ounce of prevention. Bob's already in contact. I think we're in good shape. I don't think that's going to upset, a lot. And I think we're going to be a lot more, safe to not throw the hammer down and come up with something tonight that's really only been discussed for a matter of days.
Well, a couple of questions. Is this first reading, second reading, or does it even require a first reading?
It's a resolution.
Just a resolution, okay. Secondarily, to your point about giving it 2 weeks, there is another parcel that we are working hard to develop as part of the road raising initiative, and also as part of, there's some community beautification activity along the old SSA, is that what we call the thing? The
STA.
STA, thank you, that requires some input. So maybe 2 weeks buys us time for him to identify what is not in alignment with his plan, and also to offer the community something that we can trade out.
Okay, so I'd like to move that we table this for 2 weeks.
Before you make a motion, Vice Mayor Kurzman has been patiently waiting to say something. Go ahead, Dave.
This is, like I say, I concur with what Commissioner Fender has said. This has been out there for quite a while. The comp plan we've been working on for quite a while. These rules were put in there for a reason. While we're trying to change things, our biggest issue is flooding. That's why we're buying property right now. And this will actually protect us and protect the area from flooding that's in there. Underneath the old rules, he could flood the daylights out of us, and it's not going to be advantageous. I know that neighbors, not just one neighbor, but many neighbors were nervous about this, because it's the unknown. But also, we put these in there to protect the town as a whole. This represents many residents, not one developer.
Yeah.
And that's where I just think this is ready to go, and I don't see any reason we shouldn't approve this tonight.
I'm not against the LDRs. I'm against the quick action without proper vetting with the party that's going to be affected by it the most, and to give it the 2 weeks. This just came up at the budget meeting 1 week ago.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, I agree with Commissioner Campo. It felt very sudden. I've never heard, hadn't heard of this before. We had the budget, we had this meeting. It was a lot. I was trying to understand all of it. So I do agree it was quick and rushed, and I would support putting it off because I don't feel totally prepared to make a decision like this that could impact a property owner. And I totally am on board with updating the LDRs too. I mean, that could get started pronto. I mean, I think that's super important and want it to be in alignment. I have a question. My main question, and one of the issues I've been having with this is, well, one of the things is I didn't think we changed the comprehensive plan so much that it would be so out of alignment with our already existing ordinances that something terrible could happen. I thought our ordinance has been around for a long time, and we have kind of maintained what we wanted. So what is different that could be done with the property now when the LDRs and comp plan are out of alignment versus what could be done when they are in alignment? Like, what is the difference on the property that that we're worried about? And I guess there's not a clear answer, but that was my wondering, like, why are we, it felt extra and rushed. And I do see the changes, Town Manager, that you put down, the differences between that's what you're talking about with the primary concerns, right?
Correct.
The difference between the comp plan and the ordinances, but, to Commissioner Campo's point, that 120 days is a long time in the real estate market. And if someone bought property with the intention of, splitting it and reselling it, that's a big deal. So I want to make sure we do it right before we decide that they couldn't, because you say lodge mergers and lot splits, and
What's
it
the
appears.
change there?
Yeah. Well, so I can answer that, or if you want to go in a different order. Okay, so the ADUs, the accessory dwelling units,
Right.
which was spread as a rumor that they were going to be used as rehab. That was a total
Right,
rumor.
right.
Okay? So that ADU has been updated significantly. And I don't know planning, and I don't know all
Right.
that, but I know that that's now in play. And that's an example of something that could be significantly different between the old and the new.
I was-
And I don't know the new owner. I didn't even know until, I looked at your meeting that the sale had taken place. I'm just talking about due process in order to keep us out of trouble. And I think that 2 weeks would go a long way to having, when you buy a piece of property, you have an inspection period, okay? So when you want to develop a piece of property, you should be able to inspect, the codes, and you should be able to have some input. That's all I'm asking, is that the new owner be given that respect, because he just put $7 million down on a development that we've had trouble getting out of the gate, and it's not because we haven't had good plans. We've had plans with the top, architect, planner, and attorney. This has been getting resistance from the neighbors. And I think we need to know that exists, and the the new owner needs to be given some rights of involvement in this process, and we can work together with them rather than greeting them with a 120-day waiting period. That's my thought. So I'll make my motion again. I would like to
Still
move.
have- Excuse me, Commissioner Campo, we still have some discussion from,
Okay, we have discussion after a motion in a second, typically.
go ahead.
Okay, I'll move that we'll table this for 2 weeks.
I'll second.
Okay, let's have the discussion now. Vice Mayor Kurtzman, go ahead.
Yeah, once again, my biggest problem in this town is flooding, and if he were to build underneath the old ordinances, we're not covered for water retention. And that's my big concern right now, and that goes for every development into this town. I mean, I wish I could turn back the clock, and this was done 3 years ago before all this developing happened, where we got all the flooding issues. I feel a lot of developers have got under the timeline where they needed to, and you have to, somebody's going to be locked out eventually, and there has to be a time, an expiration date. The expiration date, the clock is ticked and it's over. I mean, this is something, at this point, I'm just tired of seeing development coming in where it's just, they're having a free-for-all, but nothing that's benefiting the residents. I'm here, I want to benefit the residents. And, flooding, it's the biggest issue. That's all we've been talking about. We have a storm on its way. We need water retention. The water retention is going to be tremendously different. If you put all the papers in, he gets in underneath, he doesn't have to obey by the new policies on the water retentions, if I'm correct. And that's my main concern.
Commissioner Fender?
I'm certainly cognizant of our financial needs, but I have to say, my personal opinion is I'm not so eager to develop every open lot in our community as possible, as quickly as possible. That's just not my, I believe that lot will get developed in short order. I'm not trying to stop it, but if someone is going to develop it, I want them to develop it in accordance to the ordinances and the, if you call them LDRs, and the comp plan that we put forth. Going forward, I don't, we didn't spend all this money and time developing the comp plan to let somebody slide in under the carpet and develop 8 acres without adherence to it. So I haven't heard a reason yet to not invoke our rules appropriately.
Commissioner Mayfield?
This is kind of why I think the 2 weeks is good, because I don't fully understand. You guys are talking about retention and the developments, and those things are important, but we changed the ordinance to have more water retention. So that's the ordinance. That would be a land development regulation. So, when I'd have to go look at the comp plan to see how we talk about retention and water, whatnot in general, because the ordinance is the one that we updated and changed. And then when it comes to development, I don't know if the property owner is going to do this, but we were looking at developments that had like 8 or 6 properties, which would be, I would think, worse for drainage and whatnot than maybe what this homeowner is proposing. So I think it's just quick, and that we should, I don't fully what you guys are saying. I don't see I need to see the interaction between the LDRs and the comp plan and how this, I don't know enough to say that I would vote for it tonight.
And I think that's the critical issue. And I think when we look at this, we need to separate what we need to do here in terms of making sure the LDRs are updated, comp plan. That's something that needs to be done. And if we didn't have this other potential property in here, we wouldn't even be having a discussion about it. We would say, hey, let's go ahead and update this. And I don't think we should be swayed by the fact that, we don't have a plan or a permit or anything for that property. So we're really not delaying him in any sense. This is something that needs to be done, and I think we should go ahead with the, updating of the LDRs, and, we can certainly encourage, that it be, completed as quickly as possible and brought back to the commission so that it doesn't hold up any, future development. But I don't think we should look at these things, I don't think we should look at this with the property that may be developed here together. This is, to me, is a separate issue, something that needs to be done. We need to get going on it.
But the
Sorry.
the resolution is, the part of the resolution that I object to is, we could we could just take out the zoning in progress declaration, section 2, and continue on with the LDRs. Glenn, do you have anything to shed on this? We just approved your
Well,
new
rather
rate.
not-
We
rather
want to
not-
get
rather-
our money's worth.
Rather not, but this is the ultimate discretionary decision by the commission. You've adopted, as you all know, you've adopted the comprehensive plan. There's apparently some inconsistencies between the comprehensive plan and the LDRs. So in normal course, what you're doing, what I'm hearing you doing, is you're going to update the LDR so they're consistent with each other. I can't sit here today and tell you which inconsistencies there are. The staff manager and I, we've talked. There's nothing illegal about doing this. I mean, zonings in progress are done often. The longer they are, the more risk you have. I've seen them as long as 1 year. You go more than a year, you're really running a risk. The common number is 6 months. Bob and I talked about that. He thought that he can get this done, if it wasn't for the holidays, in 90 days, so to be conservative at 120. I think one thing I'd mention is, this is a resolution that you can change at any time. If, just as, on the one hand, Commissioner Campos suggesting postpone starting this for 2 weeks, you could just easily 2 weeks from now rescind this, or 6 weeks from now, or 8 weeks from now. At some point during the process, if you feel that the purpose has been served, primarily if your LDRs are adopted. So if you get them adopted in 90 days, you rescind this in 90 days. But if for whatever reason you decide 2 weeks from now that you want to rescind this, you can do that. So it's really a discretionary decision as to whether you say we're putting a halt on everything for 4 months while we get the LDRs to line up with the comprehensive plan or not.
Commissioner Fender.
So before we vote on this, I'm curious about the process of updating the LDRs. How's that happening? Who's doing it? And what,
That's a whole nother ball of wax.
that's my question. I mean, do we need 2 weeks just to understand the process of updating the LDRs so that we know what we're voting on here?
Mr. Daniels.
Yeah, the whole process of updating the LDRs is, starting. We've already, I met with Jack and we started going through some of the land development regulations that we have and looking at the comp plan. So that started. Bonnie has been doing that preliminary work, I guess, as she was doing the comp plan. And that's why has the most information on some of those changes that need to be made. And as I mentioned before, my plan is to get this done as soon as we can, because I don't like there to be any type of a conflict that anybody could either take advantage of or not take advantage of, because we should really have gotten this done earlier. But it's one of those things that just didn't come about. And professionally, it's my job to make sure that we don't have that conflict. And that's why you hired me as a professional manager to be here and take care of this for you. So whether you do the zoning in progress or not, it doesn't say, well, now we can't update the LDRs. No, we can do that. And that has to be done. My understanding is from the background that I have collected, we had a lot of issues over the comp plan amendments not being done appropriately or timely, and, I don't want to have the same issue with the LDRs. So, that's starting already, and as, we formalize this, as I was putting the pieces together, because I did want to make sure that, everything was proper, that, we hired the planner properly, we, did the RFP, and apparently that was part of the RFP. So I'm good to go with, setting Bonnie loose on this tomorrow with the instructions that I want it done as soon as possible, not the instructions to wait we have 120 days to do it. I do want to get that done, and you have my word that I'm going to push that along, whether it's an objective or not. I just want to make sure we get it done as soon as possible.
Commissioner Fender.
Love the work Bonnie's done on the comp plan. I just wonder, is there some sort of specialization on LDRs that is necessary to do that appropriately? I mean, is Bonnie the person? Maybe she is, I don't know. But what's the difference between the work that one does on LDRs versus the work that one does on a comp plan?
A lot of it is just more regulation with language, and usually when it gets down to ordinances, we default to the town attorney, and he makes sure that it's in the proper legal format that he needs to defend, should we have a lawsuit or other attorneys need to defend on our behalf.
Well, that's my
So-
concern, right? I mean, I think maybe, could be wrong, that there is some industry vertical related to land use regulation that we might want to consider. And that would be worth 2 weeks, is understanding, what the speciality is that does LDR improvement or cross justification, I get that you're trying to speed this through, but I'm concerned about speeding it faster than is healthy for the town. If there is some industry-specific knowledge, we should know about these LDR deployments.
Mr. Torcivia.
Just to answer your question, so LDRs are typically done by planners. That's, I would say 90% of them are done by planners. You'll have, obviously, Jack would be involved, the manager's involved, the attorneys are involved, but the planner drives the bus. They're the ones that, especially when you're just on the comprehensive plan, and as Bob said, Ms. Landry did the comprehensive plan. I guess it'll, at the back of her mind, or maybe the middle of her mind, she's thinking of the LDRs while you're doing a comprehensive plan. It's almost like building a house, right? Your contractor is building your house, but somebody's gonna have to put those nails where the holes are. So now maybe it's putting the nails in the holes that are already drilled, and make sure all the nails are put in the right place and the house is supported.
Okay.
That was very legally analogy, I know, but to me, that's a visual that I can understand.
Okay.
Can I,
How about, if you don't mind, take one more minute, have Bonnie come up and talk about the LDRs?
So the first thing I'll say, and the reason why the zoning in progress is done, and by the way, the city of Stewart did a zoning in progress just yesterday, so it is a typical planning function. If you identify something about your LDR that needs to change, what you don't want is to have the LDR being drafted and this one in place, and somebody puts an application in right in the middle. And then there's a conflict between what's being drafted and what has been approved and the comprehensive plan and the LDR. So that actually, and I will have the attorney back me on this, that actually puts you in a more vulnerable position legally than not doing the zoning in progress. Because now the developer will say, well, I want to do it this way, and you want to have one thing for everybody to follow, and you want it to be done. But that's all I have to say, is I think it makes you more at risk if you don't do the zoning in progress. But if you just want to draft the LDR and hope nobody puts an application in between and makes it a gray area, that's up to y'all. But it is a typical planning practice. In fact, the city of Stewart has that process in their LDR, which is what I'm going to recommend that you do for the next time. Because one of the reasons why that exists is you have elections, and you have a commission in place, and now there's an election, which happened in Stewart, and now the philosophy of how the city is going to develop has changed. They want to be able to have that change and not have applications come in, and that's why they're doing it in the city, because they had an election. So it just gives you more tools in your toolbox to have this process in your LDR clearly spelled out. For example, in the city, there says once it has been advertised, it's in place, so that they don't see the ad in the paper and they rush and try to put in an application before you've changed your code. I mean, they put thought behind it, and they did a good job. And I think that's a good model to follow personally as a planner. And I do have a list of things that I've been keeping on my Trello of things that need to change. So it is correct that as I was drafting the comprehensive plan, I've kept a laundry list knowing that we're going to follow up and change these LDRs. Some of which, by the way, are process related. The subdivision regulations are not clear. So when they're cleared up, it'll actually be easier for someone to submit an application to you and get it approved because it won't be gray. So I think it benefits the developer personally.
Thank you, Bonnie. Commissioner Campo?
So what I'm most concerned about is sections 2 and 3, and I'm going to ask the town manager, because this memo was Thursday. You had a conversation with the new owner today. Did the new owner acknowledge the zoning in progress declaration and the issuance of development permits withheld sections that we're about to vote on? Did he have the opportunity to read those and comment to you about those today?
Mr. Daniels?
No, he did not, because he was traveling today. So I was talking to him in between his layovers. First, when he took off, I would assume he left from Palm Beach, but I'm not sure. He's a Jupiter resident. But then also when he landed in Atlanta, and he was on a long layover in Atlanta. So he didn't have this in front of him. Now, I know in his memo, he talks about having a planner in his email that I supplied you all a copy with, on having a planner that he's working with by the name of Kevin McGinley. So I'm assuming he's getting competent advice from a planner as to what's transpiring. Now, he did acknowledge to me that he's familiar with a zoning in progress, because that's what he's experienced in Jupiter Island. But again, our particular process and what we needed to change, I'm not sure if he's aware of our comp plan changes that were made, but I'm assuming his planner would have the foresight to look at that and advise him. But that's just an assumption, so.
Right. So just my conclusion is, I'm not anti LDRs. I don't want the neighborhoods to flood. I think that when someone is new to the neighborhood, you don't slam them with, a declaration that's going to radically change the way that they do business. So it's different than the LDRs. I'm not against the LDRs. I just think that since that conversation just took place today, it would be the courteous, small-town Mayberry thing to do, to give someone.
Well, not all stops, sorry.
And we can call the question. I think we all,
Okay, Commissioner Fender?
it's okay with
I was just going to ask, follow up on Bonnie's statement. I mean, I interpreted your thesis there, maybe I interpreted it incorrectly, that you were making a case for the 120 days. Did I interpret that correctly?
Yes.
And that is correct, and I did have a conversation with Susan, who works in Glenn's office, and we both have experience with it. She has experience with it in a different state, in Georgia, but in Florida, you are supported by law to do this. It is not a property rights issue at all. What it does is it provides clear guidance once the LDR is updated. But what you don't want to happen is to have someone submit an application while you're drafting. That's not good planning, and it's not a good position to put the town in.
Thank you.
All right, it's been a while since you made your motion. You want to restate it so everybody knows what it is? And
My motion is that we table the proposed resolution number 946 for 2 weeks to give the town manager an opportunity to go over the resolution with the new owner of that property.
Okay,
I second, yeah.
and Commissioner Mayfield, second. Please call the roll.
Mayor Tompeck,
No.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
No.
Commissioner Campo,
Aye.
Commissioner Fender,
No.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we move resolution number 946.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Campo,
Nay.
Commissioner Fender,
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield,
No.
Mayor Tompeck.
Yes. Okay, that was a lively discussion. Next
Well,
item is,
Mr. Mayor, what it's worth, Mr. McKinley's a very good planner. I've worked with him in other cities, and he will be very good to work with. And if there are objections, I'm sure he'll pick up the phone and let me know very quickly, because I work with Kevin in a lot of cities.
okay, great, thank you.
It's great news.
All right, the next item is Resolution 947, authorizing land purchase. Would the town clerk please read the resolution title into the record?
A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point, Florida, approving the purchase and sale agreement with Virginia R. Riley Trust Seller for acquisition of 78 South Sewalls Point Road, authorizing the town manager to execute the purchase and sale agreement, authorizing the town manager to take all steps necessary to implement the terms and conditions of the purchase and sale agreement, and to execute any documents necessary to accomplish the purchase and closing of the property, authorizing the expenditure of funds, and providing for an effective date.
Mr. Daniels?
Thank you very much, Mayor and Commission. What you have before you is a culmination of a process that started long before I came here. And I know each of you have probably had a part in putting this together. I hope Mrs. Riley's on the call today. She is out of town, and her good citizenship of making sure that we can get this to happen, and the staff's hard work has really brought us to this point. So it goes without being said, but just to kind of rehash it just very quickly, is that we need property for our STAs, for the Phase 3 or 3+, and this will fit what we need, and then the remaining part of the property is something that the commission can decide on putting up for sale or retaining. But right now, we need to buy the property, and we need to, per her wishes, we need to close before the close of this year, the calendar year. And we put it in the agreement that's one of the documents, the sales agreement, on or before December 20th.
Okay. Comments from the commission? Vice Mayor Kurtzman?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Mrs. Riley for allowing us to have the opportunity to purchase this. I'd also like to thank, this benefits many residents who've had to suffer through flooding in that area. It's really going to make a big difference. I'd like to thank Commissioner Campo for reaching out to Mrs. Riley in the first place to get this ball started, as well as our town manager and our town engineer to allow this to go further. Really appreciate it.
Commissioner Campo?
Yeah, I want to ditto that. Thank Mrs. Riley. She has a tremendous amount of civic pride, and she knows this is something that's really going to help the town. And want to thank Jerry Salzer, who has helped advise her. Couple questions, just devil's in the details. The town hasn't gone through this type of financing before, and just a legal question. Should we have the financing contingency checked on the contract, or, because we're saying no?
May I?
Page 145, yeah.
I think the key thing is, she wants to sell us the property, but she wants us to buy it. Whether we get financing or not, I guess she realizes that this is a town function, so even if we had to close on the property and then get additional financing that we might need, but she, granted, it's a lot of civic pride that she has, but she does want to sell the property, and she does want to get it closed by December. So that's why purposely I saw that as being an avenue that could cause us a problem down the road, or even up front, without getting her buy-in to it.
Yeah.
So
I definitely think it makes it more agreeable to her. I just want to protect the town's side, and I don't think that there's going to be a problem, but that's a nice contingency to have, and I just want to make sure that Glenn's okay with that.
Right, I mean, you're right, absolutely right. You want to have that contingency to protect the town, but we also want to sell the property. And from my several conversations with Bob on this, I don't want to call it a deal breaker, but it probably could have been a deal breaker with Ms. Riley.
Okay, okay. So the other issue is just for everyone to agree that there's been lots of communication about her ability to stay in the property and transition, and I want to make sure that that's in writing and that everyone has a good understanding, because we want to treat her gingerly, especially at this time of transition. So I just want to make sure that not only is it clear to her, but is it also clear to Joe, who wants to maybe send surveyors there or, start nosing around so that we can kind of get this show on the road.
God bless you. Yes, if I may. Originally, she was looking at remaining in the residence until springtime, but then she decided that she wanted to close on the property. It's more tax advantage for her to have that income in this, I'm assuming, having that income in this tax year. And she also would like to relocate out of state as quickly as she can. So the ball's really in our court, and that's why we didn't have to worry about, working around her or anything, because the construction probably would not start until January from talking to Joe, our town engineer. And so, by closing in December, she doesn't have to worry about being in a construction area and trying to coexist. So she's more comfortable with the current arrangement that we have, and she's happy getting out of Florida before it gets colder up
So
where
you
she's
think that
moving.
there's a good understanding as far as those terms, and you've
Very good.
agreed to that?
Yes.
Fantastic, okay.
I had one quick question, and maybe it's for Joe. You mentioned here that the grant will reimburse up to $700,000 toward the purchase, and I was trying to think if the STA and the easement we needed for the outfall, was that assessed at about $700,000, or
Exactly. 670.
do you recall? If I wasn't lazy, I would have pulled out the 500-page document.
First of all, Joe Camper for the record. So, first of all, we explained to HMGP, that's one of the grants that we have, that we're acquiring land and then the price of the land is go up. I just want to make sure you all understand, the last time we looked at the acquisition of the property, it was going to be a piece of the land we'd own and a piece in easement. And at that time, we agreed to $375,000, I think. We've now increased the size of the stormwater treatment area by adjusting the driveway location. So I know the price of the land has gone up, okay, relative to just by square footage. We've also told them that the price of the land is also gone up too. So I don't think that the $700,000 is out of the question. But again, we have appraisals and we have.
But that's the approximate value of the appraisal, that's all I was, I don't want you to be tortured by looking for a
But I know, but
document.
if you look at the appraisal, it's going to be, it's going to show less than that. That's what
Okay.
I'm trying to tell you.
All right, I got it.
Yeah, that's all I'm trying to say. Did I say it too confusing?
You sound more like a lawyer than Glenn.
Then I better sit down.
He's learning.
He's learning from you, right?
Okay, are there any other, I don't see any other lights, anybody want to make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to approve as adopted, adopt as,
Would Commissioner Fender allow me the
Yes.
honor of making the motion?
of course, absolutely, by all means,
I would like to make that motion if that's okay.
of course.
I've got my, I would like to make the motion to execute the agreement to purchase Lot 78 from Mrs. Virginia Riley.
And I will second.
Thank you.
Okay, and I assume they mean approve the resolution.
Yes.
Okay.
947.
Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Campo,
Aye.
Commissioner Fender,
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield,
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck.
Yes.
Thank you for your indulgence.
Okay, the next item is, let me make sure I don't miss one here. Resolution number 948, Authorizing funds, South State Bank. Would the town clerk please read the resolution title into the record?
A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point, Florida, authorizing the town to borrow funds from South State Bank in the principal amount not to exceed $2 million for the purpose of purchasing the property at 78 South Sewalls Point Road in connection with the South Sewalls Point Road improvements, Phase 3, project for the purpose of constructing a stormwater treatment area and outfall area, authorizing the town manager to execute the loan agreement, establishing pledged revenues, designating authorized representatives, providing assurances, providing for conflict severability, and an effective date.
Thank you very much. Mr. Daniels, you want to get us going on this one?
Yes, probably one of the, well, I guess she's not as new as I am, but I'm going to ask Mariah Pierce to come up, and she is our finance director, and she has been working with the banks in reference to this particular venture. So, Mariah?
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. So when this first came about, we were asked to go out and pursue financing, and we reached out to four different agencies, and we had success with basically having three that said they could finance something of this nature. The first one came from Florida League of Cities, which is the Florida Municipal Loan Council. They provide basically like a package deal. They'll get a group put together, they'll have the bond council, they'll also have a financial advisor, and then just the Florida League people that will go out and do all the work for us. With that, we were looking at $40,000 is what they estimated that cost to the town would be. So then we proceeded to go with two other banks. We went with our local bank that we currently use, and then we went with South State Bank. And we got rough estimates. It's a little difficult to actually, pinpoint what we're going to be financing at this point in time. We knew the amount the property was going to be. And so both banks gave us their best kind of proposals. And in working with that, they're pretty close. Both will do municipal financing, and which when you do municipal financing, you're basically promising you're going to use your revenues to pay back that loan. You're not using the property as collateral. So that's what the method that we're proposing to go forward is to use our non-ad valorem taxes, revenue sources to help pay that back.
Can I interrupt you a little bit? Because that's one of the parts I'm a little bit confused about is non-ad valorem revenue. Most of our revenue is ad valorem revenue, so.
Correct.
Can you explain to me how we can?
Yes, so we're looking at our sales tax being kind of the primary source to help fund that. We're probably going to be estimating about $220,000 a year, and maybe a little bit more, just depends on and maybe a little bit less, depending on what we end up financing and the percentage rate, what the interest rate comes in at. So that's what we're going to pledge. We have to, in order to do that, though, we have to do an anti-dilution test. I call it delusional test, but anti-dilution test. And what that does is it basically proves that we have the revenues to move forward with that. So they won't, we'll have to do that prior to, getting approved. So with that being said, we went ahead and chose South State Bank as our bank to, recommend the commission to move forward with. And they've been very responsive, and they're very willing to, move forward with us.
Mr. Daniels, has something to add?
Yes, just, this whole process, we're trying to take apples and oranges and, come up and try to pick them at an even keel. As Mariah said that, we had a great responsiveness from South State Bank. Seacoast, though, has been with us, for handling our banking needs and so forth for years. How many years, I'm not sure, but, they definitely have been responsive in that regard. But, we also have some local people from both banks being here as residents in our city. So again, it's a decision that we were looking primarily at, what are we saving for our closing cost? And that's why we look at the non-ad valorem revenues, because number one, we can't use our ad valorem tax, but not using the real estate property as collateral saves us on the closing costs, because there's certain fees that we don't have to pay. And being a municipality, we can take advantage of that.
Is there anything that you wish to add?
No, we just have the legal portion, basically, of having the resolution that approves.
I have a feeling there may be some questions here. Commissioner Campo.
Thanks. Well, so if we use our non-ad valorem tax as collateral, we don't have to pay for things like dock stamps, so it's a lot less closing costs. So there's two methods to finance, and I'm very happy to see these three options. Seacoast, the founders of Seacoast Bank, were pillars of our community, the Hudsons. No relation to Dan Hudson. And so, I want to move ahead. I want to move ahead with, one or two or both. But I think what might be more appropriate, since Seacoast seems to have maybe come around a little bit to the lower closing costs, is if there would be a way for us to direct Bob to continue to negotiate with both banks to see if we can get the very best rate rather than settling on one. It's a lot of money. We haven't gone into debt, since I've been here. And if there's an ability to tweak down some of these costs, and we trust Bob to doing that, and it's legally binding, I would rather keep our options open to the two banks. Since my understanding is that that Seacoast kind of made some concessions, just today.
Yes.
So I again want to keep the train moving. I think either option would be, very advantageous to us. I think the timing, the payments, there's some good choices. Again, don't want to complicate things too much, but we also have large deposits with Seacoast, and oftentimes when you negotiate good rates, having those deposits can be part of the overall negotiation. So I would like to open up the authority for Bob to talk about that as far as, what the final deal looks like. So I don't know that the Resolution 948 as it stands would work, but Glenn and Bob, I'll kind of ask you, now that we've got, the last thing you want to do is to tell one, hey, you got a deal, and the rates go up and down, and you find out, because none of them are commitments, in writing. It's, banks and their commitment letters, they're like a telephone book. So I guess my question for Glenn is, how can we continue to negotiate with both banks and get the very best deal and still work with the resolution?
I would suggest that you change the title of the resolution a little bit, so where the third line talks about authorizing the town to borrow funds from South State Bank, you may want to say either Seacoast Bank or South State Bank. And then when you get into the body of it, paragraph number 5, which also talks about South State, either Seacoast or South State Bank. And you may want to then, and Bob, I'll defer to you whether you think this will hold up the works at all, but since you have a meeting in 2 weeks, you may want to have Bob just bring back in 2 weeks the second resolution specifying the bank that was selected. Will that hold it up at all, Bob? Do you think once you...
No, I
should deal with
think
them?
they're pushing for more like a 45-day period to close. So, I just want to make sure we have all our ducks in a row, so.
So I think if you just had those, either Seacoast or South State in those two places, he's got the flexibility then.
Okay.
Commissioner Fender?
So, yeah, I got a bunch of questions, I guess. To the point you were just discussing, does the entity have to be named? I mean, wouldn't it be the most appropriate entity? I mean, to give them the latitude to go with whatever works best for the town? And I trust that they will, including, and I guess I'm leading to, we're focused on closing costs, but I'm more worried about the interest rate. Do we have any indication of the difference in municipal interest rates on this kind of a
Well,
vehicle?
can I just jump in? Because this is designed to be a short-term loan, the closing costs really drive up the APR. So
Okay.
that's why we're really focused so much on that.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Closing costs are what they are, and
Yeah, I mean,
best you can get is, I'm just curious what the interest rate is. 'Cause
If-
I remember what it was a year
This
ago.
the guy?
As,
This is a work of art. man.
Oh,
This
as-
is-
I have not,
this is
I have not
awesome.
read your work of art, my
Brian.
apologies.
and
Brian,
as,
this is awesome.
I was just going to say,
Let me
Commission,
look
as
at
of
that.
today, we were looking in between 4.29 and 4.48.
Oh, so it's
It
not-
was a
The-
lot
that
more
was
attractive a
today's
year
rates.
ago. Okay. All right. The next thing is, I guess, when you say short-term, we're paying this back in 120 months or less, half of that, possibly.
I mean, the way I envision this, and the way that I moved ahead with, taking on a big purchase, I mean, we haven't bought a $2 million piece of property, was that we would buy the $2 million piece of property, we would build an extra big STA that helps people all the way down as far as we can go, and we would get a connection between the STA that's currently just west of number 78. We would connect that with a pipe. We would have 2 connecting STAs. Then we would have an outlet out to the Indian River. And then we've already got the code in place to sell the remaining lot and a home so that we could recoup the rest of the expense. We're not buying a house because we need a house. We're buying that house and the lot because that's the only way we can access the front part for the STA. So that means that if we do the construction and everything, this should be a 2-year from beginning to end. And at that point, hopefully we'll have the 700,000, hopefully we'll have, a sales price of 1.4, and it could be just that nice and neat. We've also got, hopefully, the heritage lot that we're working on. So this way, when people ask people coming up to you and saying, why are we, massively in debt? We say, well, this is the strategy. It's a quick payback period. This is the only way that we were able to access that critical linchpin piece of property and do it in a way that's fiscally.
Well, the business model is certainly my concern, and so, putting on my MBA hat, I'm trying to figure out quickly in the back of my head what $2 million is in relation to the cash on hand and the ROI on this particular investment that we're quote-unquote making. Certainly, I've always said, and we've had this conversation a few times, is that debt is not necessarily a bad thing, but too much debt is a bad thing. So I guess I need to now do the math on what is the appropriate amount of debt that we can tolerate. And I'm guessing the bankers are probably also doing that. It sounds like what your test is about.
Correct.
But also, we're gonna, there's gonna be some, as you just alluded to, some concerns about this strategy. So I'm all for the quick payback, but I'm also for what's best long-term for the community.
Sure,
And
well-
maybe there are some other business strategies that, other than the one you just described, that might be worth investigating as well.
The terms of the loans give us much more time than the 2 years. I mean, I think one was
10 years.
10 years. So, we're not boxed in.
Yeah, but I know, but I think we need to paint a very clear picture on payback. I mean, I don't think anybody in this town, including me, wants to be in debt. I mean, and I think it's
So-
not gonna fly very well.
So we're going to pay $80,000 a year to own this lot. That's what the interest is going to cost. Okay.
Yeah, as long as we can articulate the business case very
So
clearly.
You can do that for 2 years, recoup the principal. Basically, we have an STA for $160,000.
But we also have to have a plan on how to be debt-free, I mean, where's the payback on it as well, so. That I'll give you 2 weeks to figure out.
I don't need 2 weeks
Okay.
because,
No, I think the way you discussed this is the way I was thinking about it, is to be a relatively quick turnover, and I'm assuming there's no prepayment penalties here.
There is no prepayment
Okay,
penalties.
that'd be an
Good
important,
question.
that'd be an important thing. The other thing, and that's the way I had envisioned that we were going to do it. We was going to, so I agree with you 100%. I did have a quick question. I think since the purchase price was $2,170,000 and we're looking at financing $2 million, that there's $170,000 difference there, which I assume we're going to get from ARPA or someplace else.
Yes,
Yes.
and so we used 2 million to have basically kind of like a baseline, because we went back and forth with if we're going to use ARPA funds, if we're going, when we can get the grant monies. The grant monies are going to be reimbursable grant monies, so that will we'll have to front that money. And so we might not finance the whole 2 million. This was just to get us a baseline to try to compare the apples to oranges as best as we could.
And what I'm thinking about with the additional $170,000 here, that probably pretty much wipes out the first $550,000 of the ARPA funds, or thereabouts.
So we do have about, when we first started talking about this, there's the $525,000 in the second ARPA funds that we know that has been set aside for some things. We would probably be coming back and asking, to amend the CIP and the budget if we needed
But
to
what I'm
use
saying is
those.
the $170,000 would pretty much.
Yes.
Yes.
To answer your question, yes, the first trough of money would pretty much be spent. The other aspect, as we discussed tonight, we have the heritage property, and we're, now that we approve that, we're ready to move quickly on getting that to market, and hopefully by the time we turn around and close the loan, we can utilize that funding to, pay less. So, now you've taken a $2 million loan, and depending on how much we make on the sale of heritage, it could be as much as $700,000. So now you're looking at $1.3 million. So, again, not knowing what our market's going to be on that particular property, but there could be some significant upside. And again, we have taken the approach with, saving the tree, and now we're saving our environment with the STAs.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes, 2 questions and then comments. The Seacoast Bank, it says that one's 5 years. Is that correct?
That's 5 years amortized over 20 years. So we would be paying less interest over the period of time that we would have the loan out. Am I correct in that?
Correct.
Right.
It's with the idea that we would, be selling the remainder of the property.
Okay. And you said, Commissioner Campo, 80% interest, and you had mentioned 220?
Well,
as
that's
the-
going to be the
the
payment for the
principal.
year, including principal.
Right, so the 80,000 was the interest for the year, and then the balance?
It's basically
40.
4% of $2 million, just
Okay.
ballpark.
Okay. To the other commissioners' points about our financial position, I had said this before when this first came up, it made me nervous, this giant loan and this purchase, but I wholeheartedly support this road project. I mean, I think we all have from the get-go. And there's always, as I said, when and you just mentioned it, the capital improvement plan, when I saw it, I felt it was ambitious that Phase 1, Part 4, that is not the priority when it comes to making sure that this occurs. I'm just putting that out there. For me personally, I don't know about the other commissioners, but that one has always kind of, I think it's important, but this is where I wanted to keep our town's focus and make sure it happens. So, sounds good.
Commissioner Fender.
I think that was on from before. I don't have anything else.
Okay, no comments, going to get a motion?
So I'll move that we pass resolution number 948, but insert either Seacoast or before each time the word South State is listed.
I'll second it.
Is that clear, Glenn?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Campo?
Aye.
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor
Yes.
Tompeck?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great job, Mariah. Great spreadsheet.
Okay, let's see. No old business. New business, bond counsel services.
Yes, if I can.
Yes, could you please go ahead and open that on?
Sure. As part is kind of like the third prong of this purchase, the banks do require us to have bond counsel to deal with our tax exempt status. And in conferring with the town attorney, again, in reference to this particular item, I found out that we did back, I think it was in January, if my memory serves me correct, last January, we went ahead and went through an RFP for bond counsel and an RFP for financial advisor. And at that time, we threw out the bids for bond counsel. Now, we also, in conferring with our town attorney, Glenn, you're getting all this, time, man. You're earning your money.
But these are some big transactions.
But,
doing.
yes.
That's great.
So we do not have to go through an RFP to pick bond counsel. It's one of those continuing services that you come across. And so I was looking at the fact that we did have this one particular gentleman respond to the RFP. I don't have any local knowledge of bond counsel, so I spoke with Glenn, and he thought that it would be prudent to go ahead and use the same gentleman. I contacted him, and he agreed to continue at the same rate that was in the RFP. So to me, it almost seems like a win-win. We need one, we can get one, nothing's going to tie us up. But I need your approval because it's something that is over my limit.
Mr. Torcivia.
And if you remember, Mr. Miller, he sat here for a few hours into a long meeting and was told, sorry, we don't need your services. But he hung in there.
Awarding
And
perseverance, is that it?
perseverance. So,
Yeah, we sent him to Corson's.
so I did call him and say, that
His patience is paying off.
patience is paying off. And he does a lot of this. We did a transaction in Highland Beach using their firm, and they were very happy with them just a few months ago for a $10 million transaction. So we would just put together we have a standard legal service agreement. We'll send him his proposal as an attachment, as an exhibit, and if you all are agreeable, it could keep this whole process moving along.
Yeah, I just,
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, it all sounds good. I support all that. I just had a quick question. My lack of knowledge maybe with bond counsel. I'm looking at the chart under South State Bank, and it says under the row, bank fees, bank bond counsel contract, it says bank fees including bond counsel not to exceed $4,750. Is there bond counsel on both sides?
I think the bank is going to have their own lawyer looking
Okay.
this over too. Yep.
Okay, but then the other one, okay. To be determined, bank bond counsel, they're not determining who's paying theirs? I mean, I'm
They're
quibbling over
saying how
details
much
here.
They're not giving you a rate yet as to how much, right, Mariah, am I correct, that they're not giving their quote on what their bond counsel is going to be yet?
Their bond counsel would be determined, their fees.
So we pay their bond counsel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not a banker, thank you.
Part of the closing costs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Closing costs are exceedingly confusing when so many things, not sure what they all are.
I appreciate you putting the chart together. I think it was very helpful.
Well,
Mariah did.
did
I'm
that.
sorry,
So.
Mariah's what I meant.
I don't get the
I know
credit.
you didn't do it. Commissioner Campo.
So I noticed that Seacoast was using the same bond counsel. Do we need a backup plan if
They use Green Spoon Water
Yeah.
too?
I just want to have a backup plan so
Yeah,
we keep
good
things
question.
moving along.
If you want to give Bob the authority to, locate another bond counsel in case it is Seacoast, in case, my guess is Seacoast probably has a couple of potential bond counsel. And they, if they have another firm, we can stick with ours, they can stick with
Yeah.
somebody else. If-
They can get
if-
somebody else.
Right, if
We
they
got
can't get somebody else, then we'll scramble, but I think they probably have more of these transactions every day than we do in a year. But if not, we'll
I thought it
get
was
somebody else.
worth bringing up because I didn't want to hit a snafu.
I'm
So
glad
That's
you
a good
did.
point. That's a
Thank
good
you.
point. I frankly
Does that
didn't know.
require, should that be part of the motion then, or?
You could include that as part of the motion. I think we both could, as long as there's a consensus that yes, if it's.
Well, I'd rather have, if we're going to do it, let's do it properly in the motion, if you don't mind.
Sure. So,
Sounds like you're ready to make a motion.
okay, I'm geared up. So I would like to make a motion to authorize Bob to negotiate bond counsel services from Green Spoon and Martyr, and to have the authority to get other bond counsel that's agreeable to Glenn if there's a conflict with Green Spoon,
I would say Glenn and Bob, please,
Glenn and Bob.
if possible.
Yes. Is that clear enough, April?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Fender?
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Campo?
Aye.
Okay. That brings us down to commission and staff closing comments. Any staff comments, Mr. Daniels?
Yes, a couple things going on. We started our audit. Daniel Suarez from CRI, which is our CPA that does our audit, came in for their field audit this last week, met with myself and the finance team, Holly and Mariah, and they're moving right along. So they'll be here periodically. I think we have a meeting set up on next Thursday. So, you might see them around if you're by Town Hall, but, I'll be updating you periodically on how they're progressing with getting their audit done. And just looking at the storm, I attended a meeting with the chief this morning at the EOC at 11 o'clock, and I had another one at 5 o'clock. Basically, our Hurricane Ian, however you want to pronunciate it, but is not going as well as we had hoped. It's been taking more of a drift to the east and to the slowing down, so it's further south than they had planned. Originally, it was north of Tampa, then it was Tampa, and now it's more the area south of Tampa. So that's why they have enlarged the tropical storm warnings to be our area in Martin County. The county has taken, as of 5 o'clock, they did their emergency declaration. The governor had already signed an emergency declaration, and I have in front of Glenn and the mayor our own emergency declaration. Now, the main purpose why you want to do this is that we have declared this as being an emergency because of the flooding and other aspects it can be. We're also, tomorrow, we're supposed to have some heavy winds coming through, squall lines, but it could be after 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, we could have more 30 to 40 mile per hour winds sustained. So that's true tropical storm winds. And they're projecting that to last all the way through Thursday till 10 p.m. on Thursday, and they hope it to dissipate. The chief, as you know, wasn't here right at the beginning of the meeting because she attended the 5 o'clock version of the EOC meeting and the weather report after that. So I don't know if there's anything I'm missing, Chief, if they updated it. But, the main thing I wanted you all to know, this isn't to be taken lightly. We do want to make sure that our residents are prepared. We've been stressing the preparedness, and we're going to be putting information out to the residents as well. but I do plan on closing Town Hall tomorrow for the safety of our employees, and then we're going to play it by ear on how Thursday goes, but if Thursday is going to be as bad, we'll probably be keeping them at home on Thursday as well. Chief?
Yeah, you'll have seen, and I'm sure that Martin County's probably made it into the news. Virtually everyone is closed tomorrow and Thursday. Constitutional offices, the courts, the clerk of the court, property appraisers, things of that nature. I did speak with our police clerk, and Kathy doesn't want to come in the morning, so we will have our admin offices open for at least 4 hours tomorrow morning, just in case. Plus, we know we're going to get a lot of calls. The 5 o'clock did bring, again, a little bit more of a wobble to the east, which, as he's explained, it's not pleased us. It was a 20-mile wobble in the morning, another 10 to 15 miles in the afternoon, all of which increases some risk to us. Primary concerns at this point is flooding. I don't need to tell you, we're already saturated out there. We're expecting a minimum of another 4 to 6 inches, possibly up to 6 to 8, worst case scenario, maybe 10 to 12 inches of rain in localized areas. So the county has deployed their deep water rescue vehicles if they become necessary. And of course, the other concerns we have with continued sustained winds with the amount of vegetation that we have is that it's a safety hazard from above. So, really what we'd ask is stay home. Everybody just stay home. There's no schools. There's not going to be much going on. Every time you leave, you place yourself at risk, which then potentially places public safety at risk when they have to come out and save you. So, it's a great day to pick up a new book. We will have...
Or a puzzle.
Book, puzzle, download a new Kindle. But, we'll have our staffing here, building official will be here, Public Works, clearly for the duration. And we'll be keeping an eye out on things, so don't hesitate to call if you have a problem. But, please try to stay dry and stay home. Any questions from the brief?
Thank you, Chief.
Anything else?
Nope.
Commission comments. Mr. Campbell.
Yes, I did not realize that on the consent agenda, there was a meeting time change. There was a resolution that we passed that's signed by the mayor on April 26th of this year that said that our meetings are 5:30 and 7. And I've got a commitment on the fourth Tuesday. So the meetings that we've had for the past 15 years have been 5:30 on the second Tuesday and 7 o'clock on the fourth Tuesday. And I think if we're going to make a drastic change like that, there should be more notice and consideration for your fellow commissioners. I'm just saying, if you want to make that change in January, that's fine. But to me, that's not really the way to communicate to your fellow commissioners or to the residents. The residents really aren't getting a lot of communication from Town Hall. Knowing what time the meetings are is just another part of preserving what Sewalls Point is. If people want to just, skip Wheel of Fortune on a fourth Tuesday and roll on in, they know at 7 o'clock, there's going to be a meeting. That's the way it's been. We've all promised on our campaign literature, preserve small town charm. And the opposite of preserve is change. And when you change without a lot of notice, that is going to upset some apple carts. And it's going to personally affect me because I've been elected to another position by the county to represent the county on the Republican Party. And our meeting is fourth Tuesday at 5:30. So when that resolution was passed, a resolution, not a consent agenda item, where there was discussion, we all voted, Commissioner Fender offered the resolution, Vice Mayor Kurzman seconded it, and to supersede that with a change is unsettling to me. When I signed up for Sewalls Point, I knew that there was going to be a 5:30 meeting on the second Tuesday and a 7 o'clock meeting on the fourth Tuesday. That's part of what I signed up for. So it's what I would prefer to do is take a look at changing that in January, but even that, you're changing a tradition that's been enforced for at least 15 years. Chief, I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's been forever.
Yeah. So to have a, a change that's not been advertised, it just doesn't go well. And I would like to, talk about it, because we're a unit and we work together.
Okay, we did talk about it, before the last meeting, and part of the rationale was, when I initially brought it up, I was thinking that, we used to have a workshop and a business meeting. The workshop was always at 5:30 and the business meeting was always at 7. And then we did change to, go to 2 business meetings a month, and since they were both business meetings, it made sense to me that we have them at the same time. And what I thought was, moving the either 5:30 or the 7 o'clock back, that 5:30 was, I thought was a little more difficult for, yourself and Commissioner Fender, and also for Glenn to be here at 5:30. Probably everybody but me.
When you were
Everybody but me, okay?
When you were working, it was inconvenient for you as well. I remember.
It was. So I
Okay.
thought it might be, might be good to move that. Also for people coming from work that couldn't necessarily get here by 5:30. So I suggested that we make both the meetings at 6, and that seemed to be a popular choice at the time.
Again, it was a budget meeting, it was not advertised, and now it's on the consent agenda. It just doesn't smell the, the open communication and transparency that we're trying to,
Do you wish to add something to this?
I was
this
just going to
subject?
say your responsibility and service to my Republican Party, notwithstanding, the reason we made this change is to make it easy on the residents, to make it 6 o'clock all the time, because nobody knows when the damn meetings are. Some are 4, 5:30, some are 7. Every time I have to schedule people to get here, I have to go and figure out what time the meeting is.
It's been
I mean,
like that.
I think I would have
Been like
approached
that-
this as,
It's been like that forever.
I would have probably approached this as, hey, guys, you're inconvenienced me a little bit. Can we reconsider the meeting time announcement? Not the approach of, by the way, you weren't at the meeting, right? So you should come off a little bit more apologetic of, hey, can you help out my schedule? We absolutely will help out your schedule because you're a member of the team. But to say that we did this as a lack of communication and against the town is absolutely incorrect. We did this for the town, and it makes life so much easier for all of us to come at 6 o'clock. Even the chief, who you put on the spot, said to me as I walked out of the room, nice job on the 6 o'clock. So I will certainly help out your schedule, but I mean, don't attack it like we've done this against the town. I mean, we did it for the town, so.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yeah, I think you're just reading way too much into it. He just said, can we change it to 6, and then it's easier on staff, and I'm easy, I can do 5 to 8, so I just said, sure. It wasn't like there was any, let's do it. It was just, yeah. And since you have a commitment, I'm fine, I can do 7, it's no biggie. It really was not, no, I didn't think 2 seconds after we did it about it, so don't think that we were trying to pull something over on you.
I apologize if I gave you the impression that you intentionally did that. It's just like the verbiage regarding the plan to put together a septic to sewer plan. It's just words, but can be interpreted that way. So,
James, I just want to also say, the other reason too, we were thinking, because the employees also, it's a long time to stay around till 7 o'clock. I mean, I'm sure we'd all change whatever it says. We want you to be here as well.
Yeah.
So whatever we can do to work with you, 110%, please understand that. And I mean that.
okay, well, I'd like a motion to reconsider the consent item 6I, and to have it maybe looked at again in January. I'd like to make that motion to reconsider consent agenda 6I. Pretty please.
I'll second that if you say you're sorry for making us sound like we were trying to trick you.
I'm sorry that if you got the impression, I did not intend to give you that impression.
Okay.
I'm fine with it, but I think it shouldn't be based on the reasons you said. I think we should make the meetings that you can't make at 6 o'clock accommodate you.
We had a resolution passed in April.
We changed it.
Yeah, I know.
We just talked about, you can change a resolution. We did it. Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Campo?
This is a motion to reconsider item 6I, correct?
Correct.
Okay, aye.
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck?
No?
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Thank you.
And now,
And I need to work on my tone, and I appreciate that constructive criticism.
and now that you've made a motion to reconsider, now you've got to pass another motion as to, because reconsidering just says you're going to reconsider that vote. Now you have to
Decide what you want to do.
Yeah.
make a motion to whatever it's going to be.
So,
Make,
Yeah, I will make a motion that we continue along with the meeting schedule according to the original resolution number 934, which is 5:30 for the workshop meetings and 7 o'clock for the business meetings.
Okay, we don't have a workshop meeting anymore. We have 2 business meetings.
Okay,
Okay.
so the second Tuesday of the month meeting will be at 5:30. The fourth Tuesday of the month meeting will be at 7 o'clock.
I'll second it to try to get us all.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Fender?
No.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Sure.
Mayor Tompeck?
No?
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Campo?
Aye.
Okay, if there's no further commission comments, look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
We're adjourned. Thank you.